Welcome to week 7 of Cathy's carnivore journey. How are you doing, Cathy? Great to see you.
I've just had a massive steak after a very busy morning, so I'm feeling very good. So thank you for that,
Awesome.
allowing me those extra couple of minutes. I thought if I
No
don't eat,
worries.
I'm going to fall over
And
because it's been so busy.
I know, and when when you texted me and said, I'll be there on time, but I have to eat something first, I was like, don't rush. Eating something first is very, very important. So this is week 7, and last week we were talking about, anyone who hasn't seen the video last week, we were discussing how Cathy had had a gallbladder attack right after we did week 5
Mm.
because of something you'd eaten, and then you were going to go kind of, that's it, I'm going kind of pretty strict. And so it's been about just almost 2 weeks since that last attack. How'd you go in the last week? Have you had any attacks or anything? Because we haven't really checked in about this.
No, I've been fine. So I've been eating mainly lion for the first week because I really wanted to reset. And then I've just introduced a bit of egg in that as well. But interestingly, I had a sausage last week and it gave me heartburn. So I've got to be careful which sausages I have now. And I think it's so interesting because I think previously I probably wouldn't have even noticed. But now that I've got such a clean, I'm so much more clear on reading my body. So I was like, oh, that doesn't feel very nice. So I won't have those kinds of sausages again. They were gluten free, but whatever it was in them that didn't agree with me. So yeah.
Did it have flavorings, spices, and herbs and things like that?
No, I didn't. I was pretty
Hmm.
careful, but whatever was in that particular brand just didn't sit with me, so I won't go there again.
Right, right. And gluten free usually means they have rice flour in them as opposed to wheat flour. Because I've noticed that the pink ones, which my local, I think I spoke about this in last week's catch up, that my local butcher just said stay away from the pink ones because those are the normal sausages, and he just said they all have wheat in them as a binder. And he said
Mm.
the flavored ones that he makes, that he does like two flavors every week. It's things like uh, lamb and rosemary, or spicy meat, or chicken apple sausage, and just these kinds of things. I mean, I'm not worried that there's actual apple in there. I think he probably buys flavor kits,
Mm.
but that could be something that you could be sensitive to as well, if there was any kind of flavoring in the sausages. But it's very interesting what you say about how now that you're eating cleanly, you really notice the difference. Because
Mm.
I've really noticed that too. And what about, I mean, you kind of got scared straight into the lion diet. Like, I didn't even do lion until I'd been doing this about 7, 8 months, because it took me that long to work up my courage to
Yeah.
go full lion. And you ran screaming towards it after you had that unexpected gallbladder attack. So did you find it was easier than you were expecting? And describe that experience.
Well, I started on Lion, so that was my first experience. So I went pretty radical straight off, and so now I feel like that's going to be my journey. Is sometimes like strict Lion, sometimes coming off it a little bit. So it depends on how I'm feeling.
Mm.
But I would say it's mostly Lion with a little bit of extra thrown in at the moment. But
Hmm.
that's been great. So I had my birthday last week, and
Happy birthday, by the way.
thank you. I'm taller and wiser, so that's excellent. Um, yeah, so it was lovely because we went out for dinner, and we actually took just before my birthday. We took my son for his birthday party because he wanted it when Daddy was home, so we went to that. And I went to McDonald's and ordered the quads, but the guy didn't obviously understand what I was talking about, so he gave us 4 cheeseburgers, like full cheeseburgers,
My
because it cost me
goodness.
$30. I went, that seems like
Oh,
a lot for what I'm wanting. So anyway, we had it, and there's Ian and I scraping everything off to eat the patties, but it was fine. We did it. Obviously, I didn't communicate clearly enough. But then the only thing I had, which was interesting, was on one of the days, my daughter opened some salt and vinegar crisps. Well, you call them chips. We call them crisps in
yeah.
England. And
Hmm.
at the smell of those, I was quite tempted to have one, but I didn't. But that's
Mm-hmm.
the first time I thought, I consider having one. I thought, no, I'm not going to have one. But I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
the familiar smell, and what comes with that is like movie night, and this is what we're doing, and so there's that sort of slight emotional attachment. But it wasn't overwhelmingly. It didn't take over. I didn't. Whereas before it would have completely. It would have been conscious. I've just taken it. Whereas this time I thought, oh, that smells nice. Should I have one? Probably not, and I didn't. But it wasn't a case of I'm doing without. I'm gonna self deprivation. It was just like, should I have one? Should I really? Do I really want one? And I thought, no, I probably don't really want one. It was just a familiar smell. And then the
Right.
kids did me a birthday cake, which was very cute, and they brought it in with all these 11 million candles. I was like, that's rude, but I'll let you go because you're cute. And they sang me happy birthday, and I had no inclination to have cake at all. But what I did do over the weekend, we went out for a beautiful dinner, and and again, we sort of said no sides, no this, no that, and she was like, okay. But I said we'll have prawns with it, so we'll have like a surf and turf. So we had prawns and a beautiful steak. It was really
Lovely.
good, delicious. And but I did have some alcohol over the weekends, and I really enjoyed it, and I didn't have any ill effects. So I was really good
Mm-hmm.
with my water and my salt, and that makes me feel good because it makes me feel like this is easily a long term plan because I don't feel
Yeah.
deprived. And
Mm-hmm.
I did have some cream over the weekend as well in my coffee, so I had some creamy coffees, and still I didn't have any ill effects from that. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of made me feel like I can have good times and I can feel like I've been a bit indulgent, but I've walked away feeling good. So I
Oh.
had this little cocktail thing. It was only a shot glass. Um, because we've been Googling over the weekend what would be the best alcohol for carnivores, just to make sure we're making
Mm-hmm.
cleaner choices. And I had
Mm-hmm.
one and I thought, oh, I might have another one, but I didn't. Because I'd like, no, I think I'm good on that, you know? So it was lovely to walk away from my birthday weekend thinking I've enjoyed myself, I've had a few glasses of wine, I haven't gone off the cart with the eating. So that
Mm-hmm.
felt, I suppose, exciting and hopeful that this is a long term strategy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you would have probably, I mean, with the cocktail, you would have easily had two prior if you hadn't
Oh,
been kind of.
I don't want to bring myself a reputation, Naomi, but I would have had several on my birthday. I wasn't driving, so I don't want to tarnish my impeccable record. But I don't think there would have been a thought behind it. But with that, it was a tiny tot. It was like amaretto and Maylis and something, but tiny shot. And I just
Hmm.
really enjoyed it. And then I was
Hmm.
happy. I didn't want any more. I didn't have any wine. I didn't have anything with dinner. I was just, that was satisfied me. That felt decadent.
Well, I thought you said you had a few glasses of wine as well.
Oh, over several days though, not because we sort of had a few days of chilling out and whatever. So I had
Ah, okay.
probably 3 glasses of wine over the last week and the shot thing.
Right, okay, okay. And so that celebration period now is over, and how long do you think it'll be before you have another glass of wine?
I normally would have a glass when Ian's home, so it will
Hmm.
be another 3 weeks before I touch alcohol. If I do, then I mean, I don't feel the need to have it.
Hmm.
Sometimes he has a drink I don't want to drink, so it has no hold over me. But
Right.
I wouldn't really tend to drink. It's because I'm a lone parent at home. If something happens with
Yeah.
the children and I need to get them to hospital, I need to be clear and sober.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. That's a good point. I went to a friend's little gallery opening on the weekend, and it's so funny how I just kind of looked at the wine that she had out there, and I just thought, I think I'll suffer if I have any of that, for the same reason that you felt that way after that sausage.
Hmm.
And in the end, I ended up deciding to have a little bit of, because I smelled one of the red wines and it smelled delicious. And I took a little sip and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. This tastes really good. Like this particular wine, like there's a lot of ones I don't really like and I can like easily leave it, but this was like, oh, this is really good. Oh, it's from the Barossa Valley. Oh my God, that's my favorite wine region in Australia. I was like, okay, just give me a little glass. And I was just like, oh, I hope I don't pay for this tomorrow. And I don't know if it had an effect on me or not, because the next day I did need to sleep for about 3 hours in the afternoon, but that could have been allergies because my whole house is surrounded by wisteria and it smells delicious. I mean, it's so beautiful, but I know that I'm a bit allergic to wisteria. And this time of year, I think what comes with that beautiful perfume is it's like the scene in Wizard of Oz where they're walking through the poppy fields and they all fall asleep. So was it that glass of wine I'd had the day before? Don't really know. But my eyes were super itchy, which I think makes it allergies. So I think that's what was going on. But it's just interesting because I've never been a really big drinker anyway, but I certainly used to be able to have I remember I could share a bottle of wine with someone. And as long as I drank a lot of water before I went to bed, maybe took an aspirin or something, just so I, wouldn't dehydrate or whatever it is. And then the next day, I would definitely feel it if I was doing any physical activity, workout or anything like that. You can feel yourself being a little slowed down, a little sluggish. But it wouldn't like take me out of the game. And what's happened, it actually started to happen before I started Carnivore. It started to happen about a year before. I found my tolerance just dropping to the point where I could have one glass, maybe 1.5 glasses. And then when I started Carnivore, I just, that got worse, like in terms of very careful about the kind of wine, because if I didn't know where it came from and it had a lot of sulfites in it, or I'm not even sure exactly what's the thing in it that causes the triggering, but I could just feel really just hungover and rotten the next day just from a single glass of wine. So it's always a bit of a roulette wheel thing for me now, which is why I hardly ever. And it's so funny because I used to think that I would feel deprived if I was on some special diet. I would feel deprived if I didn't have a glass of wine. Everybody else is having a nice glass of wine with their dinner and I don't. And I feel sorry for myself. That is so gone. It's not even funny. And so now it's just a case of rarely do I feel like having a glass of wine. When I do, I'm aware on a visceral level that I want to be really careful that I definitely don't have enough to kind of ruin my next day, like take me out of the game. And quite often I just decide, I don't think I will. Just like you did with that second cocktail where you were like, I could, and I might, I don't think I will. And it was the same kind of thing with wine. But like I said, this kind of tolerance issue changed. This came on about a year before I started Carnivore, so about 2 years ago. And I don't know what caused it. I don't know if my body just reached. I think it's a lifetime.
It's just a lifetime, isn't it? When you're younger, you get away with it because your body's pretty clean from being young. And the more decades you're here, your body's like, I just don't want to do that anymore. And there's so many people that just, I was one of them, just keep beating my body up all the time and thinking I was doing the right things for sure. Like people are out there, they're not trying to be unhealthy. Like people are wanting to be healthy and doing the right things. But I think your body just gets so full of toxins and it gets harder and harder for it to get rid of it. And so it just starts to have a bit of a tantrum and say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. You've got too much here. And I'm having, what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it. The menopause. I was hearing something the other day and what do they call it? Something else. I'll think of it in a minute, but it was very rebellious and it was very sort of, it was like a tantrumy stage for us at this age. And I do feel that our bodies just say enough.
Maybe that is what happened. It could be that my body just, and it didn't mean that I was having tons of wine. I definitely, when I first came to Australia, I was drinking more than I'd ever had in my life, because it was such a wine centric culture, like a drinking centric culture anyway, but especially wine. It would be like, what are we having for dinner tonight? What bottle of wine should we open? And that kind of became normal. But having said that, after about 3 or 4 months of that, I felt so sick. I just said to my then partner, I can't do this. My body cannot stand this. I don't think I can have wine every night. And he was like, oh, we'll just open a bottle and, you can just have one glass. And I found that I couldn't even just have one glass. Sometimes I'd need like a 3 or 4 day break between glasses of wine. So I'm really grateful that I have that particular composition, where what happens is, if my body definitely doesn't want it, it won't taste good. Doesn't matter if it's my absolute favorite wine from my favorite winery or anything like that. It's just, I take a sip and it tastes like horrible vinegar. And that's actually what started to happen about a year before I started Carnivore. Is someone would pour me a glass of wine. I go, oh, that sounds nice. Yes, I'll have a glass of wine with dinner. I'd take a sip and it would be like, oh my God, I have to hide the fact that I'm not going to drink this, because they've just poured this lovely glass of wine and there's no way I'm drinking it because it tastes awful. Like pickle juice would be better. And it would be a wine that I'd had every time everyone else is going, oh, this is great. This wine is delicious. And I'd be thinking, what has happened to my body? It's like, I'm really grateful for that, because it would stop me from drinking excessively, in that I might enjoy a couple of glasses. Oh, delicious, delicious. Maybe halfway through the third glass, it would be like, this doesn't taste good anymore. What's going on? I wish I had that that could have come in handy with sourdough bread and, the chocolate licorice bullets and things like that, which I didn't have that internal stop mode. But that internal stop mode really kicked in about 2 years ago. And it could just be that my body just went, nah, not doing this anymore. And I'm like, really? I hardly drink anything anyway. No, non-negotiable. Can't have any more. But I really enjoyed that little glass of wine that I had at that wine opening, or the wine opening. That's what most art openings are, like gallery openings, is wine. But there was lots of cheese and lots of delicious little bits of charcuterie, and so it was very carnivore friendly. It wasn't Lion Diet friendly, and I am ready to do a bit more of a Lion Diet kind of a clean sort of little. I was listening to somebody the other day on their YouTube channel talking about how they would do Lion Diet maybe for a week once a month or something like that, or a month once a year, pure Lion. I don't think I need to do anything that kind of organized. I think for me, just doing like right now, I feel like doing Lion Diet I've got some salmon in the fridge I'm going to use up, and a few things like that. And I feel like just doing Lion for a couple of weeks, because it's really good. It feels really good. It's more convenient to not do Lion, because like at that gallery thing, I was able to eat, prosciutto and a little bit of like manchego and interesting little cheeses. And that was kind of fun. But also, I wasn't knocking myself out on it like I used to. I used to go hard on the charcuterie before, and then I wouldn't have there's no hunger left at dinner, and I couldn't stop myself. It was like this compulsive thing. I don't have that anymore, which is really good. So over the course of about 4 hours, relatively small amount of cheese and prosciutto and stuff like that. But didn't at any point ever feel like I was holding back, other than just politeness and let other people have some. I wasn't making that my big carnivore meal. But that's another reason I thought that glass of wine might not impact me too badly, because I was making sure I was, that cheese and that meat kind of, put that fat lining my stomach, so it wasn't going to hit my bloodstream really fast. But how have you been feeling in terms of, like, when you posted photos about your birthday? I was really struck by how different your face looked. Like, you looked really good in terms of just It looked like you had kind of definitely, the inflammation had gone down even more drastically from when I saw you in, I don't know, the photos before that or something. And the video we had was used to, because I've switched the platform. Anybody noticing it's much clearer now? I've switched platforms, and so it's a much clearer image. So I couldn't really see you as clearly before. But did you look at those photos too and have the same reaction and just go, wow, I'm really making a difference physically in terms of appearance wise, not just in terms of how I feel?
I think if I compared photographs, I mean, I did show Ian a photograph of when we were at our event together, you and
Yeah.
I, and he said, "Oh my gosh, yes, you've changed quite dramatically since then," which is obviously 7 weeks ago. Um, I suppose you see yourself in the mirror every day, and so I did have a bit of a time where I thought, oh, I said to Ian the other day, I thought I might have been a bit slimmer in my jeans, although I have had wine,
Mm.
so I appreciate that.
Mm.
But I'm sort of waiting for that bit to kick in because I'm feeling better. I'm feeling stronger. It was nice coming away from the meal out and saying to Ian, isn't it lovely to come away from that and not feel overstuffed? You know, because otherwise you get the sides and the potatoes, and then you think, oh, shall we have a dessert? It's a special occasion. Let's have a dessert. And you sort of come away like, ooh, sort of rolling down the street. And we didn't. We had our steak and we had a few prawns and we left. So that was quite
Lovely.
easy. So that's
Yeah.
nice. And so that there's not that hold that used to have over us. But yeah, I
Mm.
suppose I think about that photograph I sent you day 1, day 5. I noticed then that I'd lost a lot of inflammation from my face. I was quite shocked actually how much only in 5 days that I did.
Hmm.
So now that I'm going into this next couple of months, we've got another event together in end of February. So that's kind of a
Hmm.
bit of a goal for me as well. So to see what I can do
Mm.
between now and then. So that's going to be awesome.
Mm. So what's your 90 days? What's that going to be? So we start at the beginning of September. So September, October, November. So around the 1st of December, around then ish, in that week, I think, you will be at the 90-day mark. Okay. And I watched somebody's video over the weekend, and they were talking about the healing and how 90 days is a really big benchmark for healing on carnivore. And then there are other ones as well, but it was really talking just so matter of factly that even though you experience healing as soon as you start, that 90 days is where what they're basically say when they say, try carnivore for 30 days, is that if you don't have a ton of healing to do, you'll see a really big difference after 30 days. If you have a ton of healing to do, you got to go 90 days, and you've already committed to doing like long term anyway. But I just thought of you when I heard that, because you're in such early days in terms of how many things needed to heal. So in terms of just touching into the other things that you have, so you have your gallbladder's been fine, you haven't had any twinges or anything like that. Let's go through the list. Your energy. What's your energy been like?
Pretty good. I mean, look, every time I speak to you, I realize how full my life is because really the weeks are very, very full. And I manage it very, very well, considering my autoimmune is to make me tired. So I put in a
Was
good
that
day.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
right. Okay.
I do feel it's more steady on carnivore. I feel stronger. Like the first 10 minutes of this interview, I was thinking about the steak I just had
Yeah.
because I really enjoyed it. And it was just exactly what I needed. And so I feel fueled. I feel steady. I
Hmm.
feel calm, much more regulated with my emotions,
Hmm.
much steadier, much calmer. Um, and really no, I'm not going out like we took the kids. One of my boys had a party and we went bowling, took all of these children with us. It was immense. And, you know, previously I'd have been thinking, oh, I'm just going to grab, just for the ease of sake, the sake of ease. And I've got all these kids and I'm sorting them all out and I'm doing this and that. And it didn't even occur to me to do that. Like I'm looking for the options I can have. I'm actively seeking those options out. And
Hmm.
like with the burger, look, I didn't explain myself well enough in McDonald's. He gave us 4
You'll get
cheeseburgers,
better at that.
which was not what I wanted,
Mm.
but that's my
Yeah.
lack of tea over, explaining what I wanted. But even then, we didn't just go, oh, well, we'll have the burgers. Do you know what I mean? We're like, scrape it off, have the patties. And the kids ended up picking the buns, and I was like, yeah, do what you want. We don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to have that calmness,
Yeah.
that when you go out. I mean, we went out on the way to the airport, because I've just taken my husband back to the airport today. And we stopped off at a restaurant on the way there, and we actually found a fantastic butcher's. So we'll be going out for lunch there again and stocking up on all of the meat, which is great. And
Great.
when we were in there, I chose a breakfast, and it was, a patty, but I just wanted the beef patty, which was homemade. I thought, great, that's going to be awesome, because it's going to be more substantial than a burger. And I said, I just want the patty and the eggs and the sausage, but I don't want this, and I don't want this, and I don't want this. And she's like, yeah, cool. She went away, and then she came back and she went, I'm so sorry, we haven't got any patties. And I was like, okay. So Ian ended up eating, because he's going on a flight. And I just said, I'm not going to, because all of the breakfast is just your normal. You've got hash browns, and you've got this, and I thought, I'm just going to be dissecting the whole meal. Like I'm not going to be paying full price. So I said, I'm not going to do it. So I waited, but at the butcher's, I said to Ian, I'm going to get myself, because we've got some steaks defrosting, but I said, I'm going to get myself a steak for lunch, because I said, I know when I get home, I'm going to be hungry. And it was so, so nice. It was just, and when you text me back and said, I'm not in a rush, I was like, amazing. I can chew slower. I can really enjoy this steak, but I couldn't, I was hungry. I was hungry by that point, but I do feel satisfied. You walk away and you think, that was an amazing meal. I feel full. I feel, satisfied. I can get on with my day.
Cool. And so your energy's been pretty steady, right?
Yeah.
And your hunger has been, how often do you eat? How many meals do you eat per day?
2 to 3, depending on the day, but I'm not getting hypoglycemic like I was. So that's really good.
Great.
So I'm making sure I have the fat. Obviously making an effort to have a little bit of seafood every week, like you said, and a little bit of pate. But I unfortunately bought 3 little jars of pate, and I don't like it, but I will get through it just to have it, because I bought it now, but I wasn't keen on it. But making sure that I do those right things that you've told me to do. I'm being pretty responsible, I suppose, about this, because anybody that would listen, it's pretty radical to go from what you would call a normal diet, with the plate divided up into the sections, to just, it's quite radical to go to carnivore. I would think that, when you first talked about it, I thought, she's gone nuts, like this woman's lost her mind. How am I going to tell her? But it's like, once you, I, as you know, I was on my knees, like my health was just so bad, and you could see it in me. Like you could see it in me. I was struggling, and not knowing what to do. That's the thing, not knowing what to do, because you're even being told by your doctor different things. And you're like, oh, I don't know what to do now, because like we were talking about, your body over the decades losing tolerance for certain things. Like when I was younger, I could eat unlimited pasta and veg, and no problem, the weight would drop off me. And then in the later, the last few years, I can't eat pasta. I couldn't eat what I normally eat, because normally I had my go-to diet, right? The diet that works for me, which was a pretty abundant diet. But you had to combine the foods in certain ways and blah, blah, blah. But it just stopped working for me. And I was like, well, what do I do now then? Because that's what's always worked for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what about your blood pressure?
I haven't had it checked since we last spoke, but I have got another appointment booked.
And do you test it yourself at all? Do you test?
No, I don't want to become obsessive over it. So I go on how I'm feeling. So obviously that day, I'm not sure whether I've mentioned this in the interviews, but there was a day I thought I was having a heart attack. And I think that was just before I saw you. And
last week?
No. When we were in our meeting in August, when we saw each other in August in the event.
Oh, yes, you did mention that. Yes.
Yeah. So that day,
that was a big scare.
I was in trouble. Yeah, I thought I was in trouble. I wasn't sure I was going to come to the actual event that we were
That's
hosting.
right. I remember you saying that.
So that would be a point where I would take my blood pressure when I think I'm in trouble here. And I was. I mean, my blood pressure was through the roof when I took it, and I took it over the
Right.
course of an hour. I was on the phone with the emergency team online, so that I spoke to this doctor
Mm,
online, and we were talking about it. And so that would be the point that I would take my blood pressure, is when I think I'm in trouble.
mm-hmm.
But my heart was a little bit palpitatey. Is that my new word? Palpitatey. When I had the wine, and I think obviously that's
Yeah.
to be expected, but not horrifically. Just like, oh, I'm aware of that I've had the wine, and
Uh-huh.
that's the effect it's had. But it wasn't bad. But other
Yeah.
than that, I've been steady.
Well, that's good to hear. And as far as inflammation goes, one thing I have discovered in my year of doing this is that it can take between like 3 days and 2 weeks for inflammation that you spike when you go off, like when you have wine or something like that. Just know that, like, I'm glad that so you won't be tempted to have a glass of wine for another 3 weeks till Ian comes back, because that'll give you enough time for any inflammation from that little bit of a celebration that you had when he was there to calm down. Because that can kind of give a false reading of, like you said, your genes, you wanted them to be looser. It's amazing how much that kind of water retention can be affecting just how your body feels in terms of puffiness and stuff when you've had something that causes inflammation. And alcohol, as much as we can say, I'm going to let myself have some every now and then, it comes at a price, and that price is that your body reacts and you'll have inflammation for, between 3 days and maybe even a couple of weeks. It depends on what else is going on. And that's why sometimes you go, it's worth it, and sometimes you go, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But when that clears, you will, I think, and especially doing lion, I think is your healing is just exponentially occurring.
Mm.
And it'll be really interesting to kind of see that, because I've heard a lot of people say that in the last week of that 90 days, suddenly they saw a big shift. And one of the things that happens, and I think I mentioned this to you before on Carnivore, is that, and this has been my experience, but also a lot of people that I've listened to, is that the changes and the healing doesn't necessarily happen in an even kind of way. Did I mention that? So it's
Yeah,
like,
like the plateau,
it's,
and then the drop, and then the plateau, and then the drop.
yeah, exactly. And that particularly the plateau and drop and plateau and drop is how I experience fat loss.
Mm.
But it's also with healing. It's the same thing. It's kind of like your body goes through, there's lots of healing going on at the cellular level that you don't realize until suddenly there's a big external or a big shift in terms of your physical state that's really noticeable. Or you notice something like I heard somebody mention in one of the Facebook groups or something that they had the skin on their heels wasn't dry and cracked anymore in the summer. And I was like, and I looked down at mine and went, oh my God, it's the same for me. And I hadn't even noticed because I don't like spend time looking at my heels, but I realized I hadn't been needing to do the kind of like the buffer heel loofah, stuff. Because also it was winter. So was it winter? Yeah, it was kind of in the winter when that, which normally, they're not a big problem because I'm not wearing sandals and stuff. So that was kind of interesting. And when I noticed new kind of health things like that. And what about the other challenge, which was like just in terms of how you're going with, making it affordable to eat lion? I gave you a suggestion of doing the chuck roast, the chuck steak. Have you tried that yet?
No, but I've got brisket today from the butcher, so I'm excited about that. Mm.
Ooh, that'll be great.
Mm.
And so you're going to do that in the slow cooker?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lovely. Lovely. Overnight? And you have a real slow cooker, like not the Instant Pot thing that I was using. Did I tell you about the Instant Pot? Yeah, yeah. So I highly recommend, after you've cooked it in the slow cooker, taking it out and putting it in a really pretty hot oven for about 10-15 minutes to caramelize the whole outside of it.
Yummy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Little extra step.
Yeah, because brisket is something we have in England, but you don't see it so much on the shelves here. So I'm pleased that I found where it is. But
where'd you get it from? Your butcher?
Well, no, from the butcher that we stopped at on the way. So they had really good cuts. So I'm going to go and see my butcher as well. But yeah, it'd be good to drop in there again. So with the 90 days healing, is that 90 days like without wine and things? Like, have I got to reset now and start again?
I don't know. I mean, people haven't. I don't think you have to reset. Look, having had that wine, potential. First, this is going to be a guess. Could potentially push that out to where it's more like 100 days or something like that. You know, maybe, I don't know. That would make sense logically. That would just kind of push it out a little bit, but you're in it for the long haul anyway. So you have to weigh up, is it going to make you crazy to kind of, and put you into the deprivation mindset to kind of try to, I mean, you're saying like every 3 weeks, you know, you have some wine, but you're not like madly overdoing it, like 3 glasses over the course of a week. It's probably got an effect. Does it reset the whole thing? That doesn't make sense that it resets the whole thing. Does it slow it down a little bit? That makes sense that it slows it down a little bit. So I think it really is, if you could experiment with not having wine again for the next like 2 months, 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think Christmas is a good goal, is to have some over Christmas.
There you go. And then, but you know, if you find that it's making you feel deprived, then that's something maybe we could tap on too, that use the cravings tapping, because that wine, you know, obviously represents something. It represents, I'm relaxing now. I'm celebrating the fact that my husband's home. This is a little thing we do together. We have our little, and we're not overdoing it. So it feels like I'm being mean to myself to not. We can tap to just kind of put you into a state where you can, take it or leave it for the purposes of doing that experiment without triggering, you know, psychological backlash. But if you want to give it a try and just see how you go, because you won't be anyway, he's not back for 3 weeks. So just, you're not going to be drinking anyway, you know, until he comes back. And if you decide, I'm not going to do it the next 2 times that he's here, see how you go. Just say it 1 time. Just don't say 2 times. Say 1 time. And just go, how does that feel? That wasn't actually that hard. You know, I had some sparkling water, and, you know, or I did you get the electrolytes that have the kind of the chocolate and caramel flavor? No. Did you try those?
I haven't tried them yet.
Because that is something you could try if it was, maybe have that on hand, like order it so that it arrives right before he comes, so that you can kind of mix that up and it's something a little bit special, so that you can kind of minimize the chances that you're going to have that kickback of feeling deprived. I think that'd be the best way to strategize. And then if you still felt sort of like that isn't fair, like we're talking about a part of you, because it's just we get derailed by the parts of us that want those things. So we're not talking about all of you. We might be talking about a 10% part of you, but unfortunately these parts run the show because they're behind the curtain, sort of pulling the strings. And so if you found that, wow, that was actually hard, and I kind of felt a bit triggered, you know, I felt a bit like I was, feeling deprived, then we can do some tapping on when we meet up. You know, in the next, you know, if he, let's say he arrives on a Friday, you spend the weekend kind of feeling sorry for yourself because you can't have a glass of wine. You go, all right, when I see Naomi on Monday, we're going to tap, you know, that could be helpful. And anything else that you want to ask about how are you going with the electrolytes and your balance of magnesium, potassium, sodium, all that stuff. Feel like
Yeah, well,
it's
I don't balance it. I just have the electrolytes at the moment. But it did make me laugh that we sat down yesterday to watch a movie. And I had, because I split the electrolyte packet over 2 glasses. That's just about right for me. So I have 2 glasses of that. So I get out 2 glasses, fill them up, half a packet in that, half a packet in that, mix it all up. Then I had a pint of water, and then I had a coffee. And I came into the lounge room with all my drinks. And Ian's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, this is what I do. This is my drinks. This is how I live now. He's like, "Why have you got all of that? Why have you got all 4 drinks?" And I was like, "This is just how I do it." So I do enjoy the electrolytes as well. So that's nice that that feels a bit different to water. Although when we went out today and I was deprived my beef patty, I really enjoyed the sparkling water, and it just had a little bit of a slice of lemon in it, and I enjoyed that. So I thought that I should get some of that in as well, because drinking plain water sometimes isn't the jam. Do you know what I mean? It isn't. It's like, oh, what should I have? I'll have some more plain water. I'll have some silver tea, please. Do you know? Sometimes it's like, I just want a little bit of flavour. I want something a bit different. So that sparkling water was great today.
awesome. Do you have a sparkling water maker or do you buy just like soda water?
Yeah, well, I'd buy mineral water. So yeah.
Mineral water, yeah, yeah. I have a sparkling water, one of those things, and that's a good deal, especially in the summer. I think that when you want something effervescent a little bit more, but also and you're having coffee, decaf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are all kinds of tweaks that can be made down the track, and I've done a lot of those little tweaks. I think the most important thing in the first 90 days is just to do whatever you need to do to be comfortable on carnivore. Because a lot of healing is happening, even though you're having decaf, even though, you've had every 3 weeks you have a couple of glasses of wine, even though you're having like artificial sweetener in the form of the electrolytes, and there's probably some flavoring in the sausages when you have those, and things like that. My first 6 months on carnivore, I was having Diet Cokes. I was having tea every single morning, a big cup of tea. And there are people who believe that tea is way worse for you than like coffee or decaf coffee. So, and I was doing that, and I don't regret it. I'm glad I don't do tea anymore. I'm glad that the spell of tea has been completely broken, and I could have it if I wanted to, just a cup every now and then. Not interested. It's one of those things that sometimes when you break the psychological or emotional addiction to something, you literally have no more reason to ever have it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's how I am with tea. So, and then when I did the Lion diet, I went off diet soda, Diet Coke. Like I went off that completely because I really, when I did Lion, I went strict Lion. There was no wine, there was no dairy, literally just, I didn't even have lamb. I think I just had beef, salt, and water because I just wanted to see what that was like. It was great, and it was easy, and I felt fantastic. So it's always something I know that with a little bit of effort in terms of just supplementing with iodine because I'm not having seafood for that month, things like that. But what's happened, which is really cool, is that it no longer, any kind of tweaks that I may make no longer feel emotionally or psychologically stressful in terms of the thought of doing them. It feels like, oh, that's an interesting thing to try. Or, yeah, I feel like I've been as it gets hotter here, I've been having a Diet Coke every day. I've gotten back to that. And I think, I don't really want to get in the habit of having Diet Cokes every day, and the summer's coming up. I really want to shift it more into sparkling water. And I've started to get the flavored electrolytes, the flavored element again. Am I having too much, am I doing the artificial? Because I discovered when I was doing Lion that I am indeed one of those people that having artificial sweetener, I think does make my body react as if I'm having regular sugar in terms of just what it's doing to my insulin, what it's doing to my holding on to fat, because I did start to lose fat quite at a more rapid pace when I cut out the tea and cut out the diet sodas and cut out any flavored electrolytes. So the focus is on healing for you for the first few months, and you're doing great. But I want you to know that if you go, oh, okay, I'm ready to feel like my jeans are getting looser and I'm ready to kind of do that, those are the things that we will then talk about, and there's no need to talk about it right now because you're still really in early days and you're doing so fantastically. And so, but I just want you to know that down the track, that's where we can start tweaking. Doing that first level of healing is the most important thing now. When are you going to make the decision about whether you cancel the gallbladder surgery altogether or not? Do you have a date in mind, or what are your thoughts?
I need to be symptom free. So as long as I'm symptom free by the end of November, I'll push it again.
Okay.
Give myself some more time. So that's my plan. But I mean, the whole point of getting the thing removed is because of the symptoms and the horrific attacks. But if I'm not having those, I'd love to heal my gallbladder if I can. So that will be a sort of, we'll postpone it again and then see where we are next year. But interestingly, it was funny because I was making drinks the other day and I made my husband a coffee and myself a coffee, and I'd accidentally put honey in my coffee. And I thought, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I went and sat down and I took a sip and went, oh, this is so gross. And I would live off honey before. There was honey in my tea. There was honey on my muesli. There was honey. Everything was honey. And I took a sip. I was like, oh, and I had to tip it away. It was so gross.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Isn't that great?
It's so your tastes change so dramatically. It's unreal. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I love the steaks. They're really nice, juicy steaks. And on the Saturday night when we went out for dinner, it was just divine. Like the steak was so amazing, so good. So it was really nice.
Isn't that lovely?
But I feel finally there's an answer for me and there's hope for me. Whereas previously I just thought, this is it now. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I'm locked in this prison. There's no way out. I don't know where the key is. I don't know what it looks like. And it was pretty depressing to think, well, I'm just going to get worse as I get older, but now I feel like I've actually got a chance to reverse everything, which is very cool.
Yeah, hopelessness can be a prison, and I was in the same state. I didn't have, 4 different autoimmune diseases and inflamed gallbladder attacks and things like that. I am understanding now that I was in actually way worse shape than I thought I was in terms of insulin resistance and things like that. I was starting to get a lot of skin tags, which I have since learned is a sign of insulin resistance. And I only learned yesterday because I was watching a video where people were talking about their HbA1c and their blood glucose and what those levels meant. And I went back into ChatGPT and I looked at my blood results and I said, so why does it said 14 on my fasting glucose was 14 in Australia. I don't know what that translates into in US terms, but it was red. And red means that it's a little higher than the ranges say that it's ideal. And so I asked ChatGPT, well, how come these other insulin levels were really good? My HbA1c was really good, like really good. And then all these different things were really great. but this particular blood glucose level was 14. Why, like, that feels a little high? Was it blood glucose or insulin? I think it was, maybe it was it insulin. Anyway, ChatGPT comes back and basically says it means that you had more damage in terms of your glucose, your body's handling of glucose, and your insulin level of insulin resistance than you knew, because it takes a long time to get that bad, and so the results don't actually show up straight away. It's years and years of cumulative damage being done by the way you're eating. So you caught it just in time, and every 6 months you should see improvement, which made me realize it's time for me to go and get another blood test, because it's been 6 months since my last one. And I wanted to check these particular 3 things: this fasting glucose, and get HbA1c looked at again. And, ChatGPT said, you should be quite pleased with the results. You should see a continued improvement. And that made me feel really, really good, because I thought, for me, it was about my arthritis and it was about my weight. And then there were things that I didn't even know I didn't have to live with anymore, like my lack of sleep. I just thought, that's the way I got to be now. Feeling really tired all the time. Oh, I'm getting older, And so there were a lot of things that improved that I wasn't even thinking about. I was just expecting I sleep like a teenager. How's your sleep been? Do you sleep? You sleep really well, just generally, right?
Yeah, I sleep pretty well. Yeah, if I get the opportunity to sleep with a house full of children, I sleep.
Yeah, well, that's good. You go deep. You go deep when you get a chance to sleep. But I hadn't for at least 10 years been able to sleep deeply. So it was, so that was great. But yeah, it was just kind of like this little bonus yesterday when I found out that something that I hadn't even known was a thing was edging towards disaster.
Mm.
And I'm so grateful that I caught it, because that place of just exasperation and hopelessness that I was at was when I realized that my sort of fat set point and my metabolism, I thought I had permanently screwed those things by losing weight too rapidly, and then I would gain it all back plus. Lose weight really rapidly, gain it all back plus. And I now knew that the ways that I had been able to lose weight in the past, which involved short-term commitment to an extreme goal and kind of white-knuckling my way through, this is how I'm eating now, I'm doing a special thing, knowing that it wasn't sustainable, but just somehow hoping that miraculously I would be able to maintain the weight loss, go back to the way I used to eat, and still keep the weight off. Yeah, okay. And so to finally understand that when you lose weight rapidly by undereating and being undernourished, you will gain it all back really rapidly and then some. And your metabolism will be permanently reduced because of that, which will permanently set you up to being less able to eat the food that you need for the energy that you need. So I hear you in terms of that hopeless place, and that's, I think, where a lot of the food noise has disappeared, because I don't have that stress about it anymore.
But
when you don't have that stress, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if you looked at my last 7 weeks, as in the levels of stress that I've had in my life have been extraordinary. It's been a very, very big 7 weeks for me. And yes, I've had a couple of glasses of wine. I got it. I had the ribs, which was a genuine error, and I had that massive mistake. Never ever do that again. But yeah, I've had the wine. I had the couple of dark chocolates that weekend that Ian and I went away. Do you know what I mean? So I haven't been absolutely strict, but I've been pretty solid on it for 7 weeks of extreme stress, and you know, literally every minute of my day has been accounted for. Like, it's been pretty full on. And I'm 7 weeks in. We were having a conversation before we started recording, going, is it 7 or is it 8? Is it 7 or is it 8? Whereas before I'd be like, it's been 362 days and 5 hours, and do you know what I mean? Like, because I was just like, that's how long I've been suffering. But now, I mean, I came on the call super happy because I just had a nice big steak, and I don't have any worries about having had a little bit of something over the last 7 weeks. But I kind of am gearing up to now going, okay, I really want to get serious now. I've sort of weaned myself off. I pretty much went off sugar and carbs overnight, which is amazing for me because I never ever thought in a million years I'd be able to do that. I genuinely thought I was addicted, like 100% addicted. But for me to be able to cut it out without, and I know I'm rare, and I know probably people hate me for it, but I didn't have any side effects. And now I feel like, okay, I'm ready to start. Summer's coming. I've had some fun. These 7 weeks have been amazing. I've had a few glasses of wine. I felt like I've had a bit of play as well, which I think, as you said, is good psychologically. But now I'm like, okay, February's coming quicker than we think. And so I really want to be at my peak in February to see what I can achieve between now and then. So I'm ready to kick it up to the next gear.
Well, look, I would just say that, um, so December, January, I would say then just keep doing what you're doing because you're doing great, you're healing, everything's great. And then in sort of, I would say in about maybe 6 weeks, so the beginning of December, I would say go strict lion. And by strict lion, what I mean is no coffee, no cream, no seafood even. Just strict lion, no flavored electrolytes, and no even pepper on anything. And just do that for sort of to get you up to Christmas. You know, you might even do, I think, 30 days leading up to Christmas. And then, you know, you can have a glass of wine at Christmas stuff. And then resume Lion all the way up to the event to give yourself a chance to maximize the healing and the potential for physically changing, you know, without compromising or without risking your like causing any of that emotional triggering of deprivation, because we definitely don't want that, because your number one priority is the healing. And you know, keep that in focus, and also knowing that the way other people are seeing you, and you're already getting feedback from people going, you know, you look different, and you've definitely looked smaller and things like that. You aren't necessarily the best judge of how much progress you've made in terms of how you look. And there's this thing that I heard about years ago. They were doing it in New York at one of the department stores or something, where they have cameras, 360 cameras all around, and they have you stand in this booth, and the cameras take photos of you all the way around your body, and then a 3D kind of replica of you is basically 3D printed. It's like life size, there you are. And maybe somebody watching this video will know what the heck I'm talking about. But what they basically did was then people were able to objectively see their presence, their size, their shape, so there were people who saw that they were way bigger than they thought they were. And then there were people who saw they were way smaller than they thought they were, or way taller or way shorter, because we find that how we think we come across to other people can be so different to how we actually do. And my strong, I believe very strongly that if we could have done that, a model of you when you started carnivore, like before day one, and then do another model in February, whether you've been strict lion diet or you've continued the way you've been going, which is still really good over the past 7 weeks, I think you would walk around those two and go, yeah, I see a really big difference. I think because, like you mentioned at the beginning of this video, because the changes are happening so slowly in terms of it just feels like you're normal. You're not counting the seconds and going, okay, there's another second in, carnivore jail that I can cross off, and it's just it feels like your new normal. So I think that makes a big difference. And that's why I encouraged you when we first started to take your measurements, and a lot of carnivore coaches do. They say, take your measurements. And in fact, I would say on December 1st, get out the measuring tape, because you did those measurements on day one. Get out the measuring tape and see how far you've come. And I think you're going to see more change than you expect.
Yay.
All right. Well, with that, congratulations on a successful 5-week or a successful 7 weeks on carnivore. Congratulations. Well done. And happy birthday too, as well. People, good thing you had a nice celebration with it. And I look forward to seeing you next week and catching up with you again. And if anybody wants to leave questions for Cathy in the comments. Oh, by the way, it's your YouTube settings is why you can't see the comments. I've looked it up.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, because my comments are set where everybody can see everything. So anybody watching this, if you want to leave comments, questions for Cathy, just leave them in the comments. And if you have your own questions or anything you want to share about your own carnivore journey, please do that. And also, if you haven't subscribed or liked this video, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me, and it'll help show up when we post a new video. And I've got something kind of exciting coming up that I'll be announcing soon. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much, Cathy, and I'll see you next week.
I'll see you soon.